Hi, everybody. We just finished a meeting with local leadership, with First Nations leadership, regional district, local MLA, and municipal leadership. And I've also had the opportunity to visit the Emergency Services Center as well as the Emergency Response Center. It's been a good opportunity to see the impact of the fires here. And it's pretty clear that people's minds are turning to a couple of things. One is recovery. And how can the province support the rebuild that's necessary here, everything from economic activity to homes and businesses that were damaged. And the second is the second wave of the disaster we've seen here, which is where you have hillsides that have lost all their trees due to fire. The water and the mudslides that could flow from that are front of mind and very concerning to people right now. There's lots more work ahead. And we're certainly not out of the woods. Those are the messages that were very clear. But equally clear was the message that we're all going to work together. There's a lot of interest around the table for the province, the First Nations communities, the regional and municipal leadership to join together to make sure that we're really tight on this and we provide the supports that people are looking for. So I feel heartened about that. I met a lot of resilient people that are ready to start that rebuilding. And it's a tough part of the world, man. People are tough here and they're resilient and they're ready to go and get going on that, and we want to support them in that work.
We'll take some questions starting over here with Joanne.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
My name is Tracy Wojciechowski. I'm with the North Shuswap Kicker. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to speak with us today. I live in the North Shuswap, and so I have pretty close firsthand experience. And you mentioned earlier when you were in Kamloops that the province as well as BC Wildfire Service recognized the efforts of the locals and that you said it was effective, their efforts, and they were working alongside BC Wildfire Service. You also mentioned that for an evacuation order that they're put in place to protect the people and structures. Now, in the North Shuswap, a lot of people didn't get their orders until after fire was coming into their backyards. And so as North Shuswap citizens have shared with me, they did whatever they could to protect their properties because BC Wildfire Service evacuated even before they got to. So for a few days, people, at least from what I've heard, is that people were protecting their properties because everybody left. How do you address these people? And how do you ensure that this doesn't happen again so that those people that have been left behind, whether by choice or whether when they felt like they had no other choice, how did they get supported and why were they not allowed to share supplies amongst each other? Gas, food, water, and whatnot to continue to fight their fires while they were left alone.
Okay. Yeah, I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who's received an evacuation order and they're looking around at their entire life's work and knowing that there's no insurance or knowing the challenges of rebuilding and also in the case of some people having the skills, having experience in the bush, having experience in forestry and even potentially in firefighting and being told to leave. The terror between wanting to stay and defend your property and also the evacuation order must have been incredibly difficult for so many people. And I understand that this is a complicated story, that there were people who stayed behind that saved homes. That there are people who credit those who stayed behind with preventing significant property damage. And at the same time, there are also stories of challenges that the Wildfire Service had with being able to deliver services and protect structures because of some of the activities that were happening with people who wanted to stay behind and do the right thing and help their neighbors, but actually ended up impeding firefighting efforts. So it's a complicated story. And what we'd like to learn from this experience that we had, especially in the North Shuswap, is how does the Wildfire Service incorporate those local skills and that local knowledge in a more organized way? So if people have those skills, they have equipment, they have abilities, that we can make sure that everybody's pushing in the same direction. It's something that they did on the fly here. At certain points, there were up to 17 locals working side by side with BC Wildfire Service, which was a very positive thing because it was coordinated. How do we learn from that and go forward? There are countries like Australia that use volunteers very aggressively, and I think we can develop from that. So that's why we've established a task force to look at and to take lessons from what happened here and to make sure that we're taking the best of that spirit of people wanting to help out and avoid the worst of it of having a situation where wildfire service is rescuing people instead of protecting structures. That's our challenge, and I think it's one that we can find a way forward on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Premier. I'm Barbara Crackle with the Social Shop Scoop, sister publication to the Kicker. Moving forward from now, as things hopefully wane, what type of support will the province be able to offer local leadership in terms of financial support for expanded capacities to address some of these changes?
Thanks. So there's a couple different kinds of support that are really necessary at this time. One is to make sure that whether you're talking about First Nations governments or whether you're talking about regional districts or municipal governments, making sure that they have the resources from the province to keep staff on, to deal with things like building permit requests that are going to start to come in, to help people with recovery. We're still in the middle of a major fire season right now. We're not done yet. And so to make sure that the folks are on deck to be able to provide the support that's necessary, the province will be there every step of the way to make sure that happens. The other piece is, I spoke to a woman named Pearl at the Emergency Services Center. Her home was saved, and thank goodness for that. But she lost her barn, she lost her tractor, she lost everything that her family had built, and she said she built it with her own hands. A devastating loss for her and her family. And she's like, well, what supports are available for us? So providing support to people in the situation that Pearl's in as she moves to rebuild. We know that businesses, hospitality has taken a huge and ongoing hit because of all the fire coverage. If you get a chance, the interior, the Okanagan's open for tourists again. Please go and visit. But hospitality took a huge hit, other businesses as well. So right now we're working with local governments, within provincial government and with the federal government on providing those financial supports to help people bridge through to the next season, to help rebuild and to get back on track. It won't be overnight, but we're going to provide the support that's needed.
Yeah, it's no secret that a lot of the rural properties didn't have insurance. Will the province be doing anything to assist the people who have no insurance but lost everything?
Yeah, I'm really concerned about, there are a lot of reports of seniors that may be in modular homes or in RVs, retired with no insurance, that are basically homeless now, with no resources to be able to rebuild, and others who have lost everything, their place of employment burned down, their home burned down, just devastating for people. So we're going to find ways to provide support however we can. Typically, federal government disaster assistance programs do not provide coverage for uninsured losses. If you didn't have fire insurance, it's not covered. I'm sure that we can find a way. In the middle of a housing crisis, we know things are already hard enough for people to find housing, let alone to suddenly lose everything, including employment sources of income. So we're going to find ways to work with local governments, with First Nations governments, to do whatever we can to support people in rebuilding.
Good question.
I was going to ask that same question. I'll ask another one here. Can you tell us who is on the task force, and is there anyone from this area that you'll be having on the task force to as you say, gain feedback from what happened here?
Well, one of the critical pieces is a review like this, and the Wildfire Service does a review after every fire season. But there are two pieces that I really want out of this. One is that there's independence, that there's somebody from outside government, there are people from outside government coming in to collect and review the information and provide that direction to government, as well as there are people from inside government. We don't have the luxury of time to wait for 6 months for a report to be written, all the information to be gathered, recommendations to be finalized, and then react to those recommendations. By the time we're moving to implement, we're into the next fire season. So what we're looking for is that as the information comes in from the regional district, from the people on the front lines here, and those recommendations come in, that we can immediately begin the changes and the training and the programs that we offer to be able to make sure that for next fire season, we're already in position so that this is an action-oriented task force. It's not a bunch of recommendations that are going to sit on a shelf somewhere. In terms of the people who are on there, I'm thinking definitely municipal fire leadership. We leaned heavily on municipal fire departments during this crisis in ways that we haven't previously. How did that work? Did it work as well as it could? Are there other things we could do? certainly experts on international fire response. Are we front of the line? Are we incorporating lessons from other jurisdictions? Are we using the best technology? And making sure that we have that strong rural perspective. Communities where there isn't an established fire department, where people are in remote areas, and making sure that we're including that perspective in all of our fire decisions is going to be very important as well.
Got time for one more. We'll come back to Tracy.
Hi. It's my understanding, and from a few people that we've spoken to in the North Shuswap, that the Alertable app that was to give notifications of evacuation orders wasn't working properly. So some people did not get the notice. So this could be another reason why some of the people stayed behind. Some of the people that we spoke to, the fire was coming into their backyard before they even realized there was an evacuation order. So those people, many of them stayed and fought as best they could to fight for their properties and other people's. Will you be looking into a better form of letting people know about evacuation orders?
Yeah, I think any of these issues that people have identified where our systems didn't work as well as they should have, and I'm thinking of in particular when volunteers in Kelowna were just swamped by 10,000 plus people who were evacuated in a very short period of time. Anytime our systems didn't work as well as they should have, this will be a key part of what the task force looks at. How do we improve it going forward? Hearing about the evacuation alert system in the North Shuswap, maybe not reaching people the way that it should have. This will be information that will assist us in ensuring that we're in a better position next time. One of the other pieces that the task force has to look at is the changing behavior of fire when we're in year 4 of a 4-year drought and exceptionally low water levels. The fires are behaving differently. The fire service has seen embers spreading outside what they typically see of a 2-kilometer radius, starting new fires in other areas. We saw a fire move 22 kilometers in 12 hours, when typically it would move about half that distance because of the heat, the lack of humidity, and the high winds that caused fire to be on people's doorsteps when they certainly were not prepared for it. So given that fires are moving so quickly, given that they're spreading so quickly in these really dry environments, do we need to change some of the ways that we go after these things, the way we notify people to be more responsive?
That's one follow-up. Thanks for your information, Premier. With regards to the task force, do you have any sort of timelines in mind as to when you want to hear back from them right out of the chute?
Well, right away out of the gate, my expectation is that there'll be information coming forward from government officials at the local level that are going to be immediately put to work both within the BC Wildfire Service and the Emergency Response Ministry. So I think that the work will begin immediately if it hasn't already. But as we stand up the formal task force, some of those more detailed questions and some of those more challenging questions about how we best incorporate local volunteers, equipment, and so on. We work very well with the forest industry. We work well with the Cattlemen's Association. We work well with some First Nations have had training in there. But how do we incorporate smaller community members and get that training out there? And how do we get training out in a way when the fire is not there that people feel the urgency to go and take that training and get themselves up to speed? So these are, in terms of those more detailed questions, as we drill down into what we know the issues are that we need to deal with, I think that's where it's going to take a little bit more time to make sure that we get it right, so that we're not putting things in place that aren't going to work next fire season.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
How's that, Aaron?